Why dahlias exclusively when most farmers grow a variety of blooms?
Well, that's a great question, Sandy. And I think it's just because the dahlia is the diva of the garden. It is an extraordinary plant, 60,000 different varieties. So
Wow.
even though I just do the dahlia, there are so many forms, so many colors, so many shapes and sizes. There's no way you can ever get bored. And that way I can just focus on being an expert in one type because, oh my gosh, to be an expert in all flowers, like, oh my goodness. So I'm just gonna take on the dahlia.
Okay. And it's such a beautiful flower. And like you said, there's so many varieties that you'll never get bored. And then when you look in the field, all the different colors must be breathtaking.
Yes, the dahlia is the flower of Mexico. So it hasn't been in America that long, only for about 150 years. And so it originally went to Europe and then got to America. So the dahlia is really not that well known in some parts of the country. But in Colorado, we used to be sort of the hub of the dahlia many decades ago. And
Oh,
so it's really interesting because some people are like, huh, Colorado and dahlias. But we used to have a lot more dahlias in Colorado, and my goal is to get people more comfortable with growing the dahlia, getting used to having the dahlia along the Front Range, because right now I'm the only dahlia farm here. There's a couple other farms that do some dahlias,
mhm.
but people just have this misconception that you can't have dahlias in Colorado Springs, and I'm like, no, you can't. So
I'm gonna uh, thwart that misconception, and I'm doing
yes, yes, we can do dahlias 7,000 feet up.
it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So before we get into some other things, I would love to know a little bit more about you personally. Um, are you a Colorado Springs native or, yeah, okay.
I am. I am. I graduated Coronado High School in 1990, so that's how old I am. And I was going to Pikes Peak Community College for a while, and then I went to the West Coast for a long time. I went
Okay,
to Seattle in California, and then I came back in about 2004, and I needed to take care of my mom, who was diagnosed with MS at the time.
oh,
And so I just decided to stay in my hometown, take care of my parents, but it was so hard because I was used to the water on the West Coast. It doesn't
yes.
snow out there, and I'm like, oh no. But then I met my wonderful husband, David, and we just decided we wanted to make my hometown the place where we're going to stay and take care of family. And so I've been back here since 2004.
Okay,
And it's not the same Colorado Springs as when I left in 1992. It's a little different.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. It's,
So, as a Colorado Springs native, and kind of growing up, can you tell us a little bit more about your childhood and some struggles? I know you have, we've talked a little bit before that you have had a hearing issue, and, kind of walk us through, what you think, kind of the struggles you've had in life with it, and, the beauty, what might, have come out of
yeah.
it as well, and then how that might have impacted what you're doing today.
Well, when I was about 2.5, 3 years old, I had a high fever that damaged the cochlea, the middle part of my ears. And so I ended up with a high frequency loss and started wearing hearing aids about three, but those were the old-fashioned analogs. And so really was stuck with the analog technology all the way through my 20s. And because of that, my speech was a little bit different than most people's. And I did struggle in conversations. I struggled with just trying to fit in. You know, when you're a teenager and a young adult, you sometimes have that anyway. And then
Right.
got a disability, wow, it sometimes can just compound all of that. But I was really good in the office. I could type really well. I liked being with people, and I knew I couldn't be at a restaurant or do anything with a lot of noise.
Right.
So I ended up just being an office girl for decades. And that worked out okay, but even in meetings, sometimes I would struggle. And it wouldn't be until I was well into my 30s that they would start coming out with this brand new digital hearing aids. And my husband just commented one time, he's like, your speech got so much better when you put the digital hearing aids on because we talk the way we hear. And so I really started to be able to improve my speech into my 30s and into my 40s. And now most people don't pick up on it. Some people do who are kind of in tune and are like, oh, you have an accent. And so I'm just really proud of all the hard work of just trying to not necessarily speak normally, but speak in a way so it's not distracting to somebody who's just trying to have a conversation with me. Because before it was hard to understand me. So it's it's been a long journey, but I'm really proud that I've been able to just work on something and improve myself. And so now it seems to be less of a barrier when I'm talking to people. But because it is kind of a struggle when you're in a big conference room and you've got all these people and you're trying to hear. Finally, when COVID hit, I was turning 50. My husband was retiring. I thought, I think I want to go do something else. And so I did a whole pivot. And instead of being in the office, I decided I wanted to be in the garden. And so,
Right.
yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Nice. Well, that is just hearing your story is very inspirational, even the way you tell it. And it's not something that was a barrier, even though with the analog hearing aids, I'm assuming everybody sounded robotic.
Mhm. Yeah, they did. Kind of mechanical.
Yeah.
Yes. And just the volume, the fluctuation of the hearing aids weren't very good back then when you would have a truck roll by and it would hurt your ears and then you're trying to hear somebody and your hearing aid can't pick up on it. So the technology now is just so much better at deciphering what's going on in the environment and trying to buffer that for you. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to not be intimidated or afraid or embarrassed about going and getting yourself checked and getting some technology because there's some fabulous technology out there. You can have it with your app, you can stream it through your TV. I have a little micro clip that I put on my husband when we're in a restaurant, and I
Oh,
can black out the whole restaurant and just hear him.
wow.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So there's just a lot of technology. The barrier can be the cost because sometimes this technology is thousands of dollars. But I'll give you viewers a little tip.
Okay.
There is a local nonprofit called Sertoma, Service to Mankind, and they have a subset called HEARS, HEARS, and they have money to give to people for hearing aids. Let me
Nice.
repeat that. They have a bucket of money for people that cannot afford hearing aids to go and get fitted properly by an audiologist and get some technology that they need to improve the quality of their life. So I hope people will follow up on that. If you know you need some assistance, but you just can't afford it, look them up online. If you just Google Sertoma and then here's HEARS, you should be able to find that resource. It's
Right.
fabulous.
Is it do they have a local branch?
They do, and it's pretty much just a local organization. And
Perfect.
so it's just a couple of people on the committee, and they get applications and they review it. It's fabulous. It's very discreet. You don't have to feel like your information is going to be peddled all over or sold. It's a very private, discreet group of people. Sertoma is a nonprofit, and so it's it's a wonderful resource for people in the community to know about, for
You
sure.
know what I'm thinking? Possibly my next nonprofit spotlight might be them.
Oh, I would love for that. And I'll put you in touch with them. They're wonderful
Perfect.
people. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
we
yeah.
definitely need more people out there. And it's funny, with all the technology and what you're talking about, and even clipping on your husband and listening. I've got a my hearing is gotten worse as we get older, and I still don't want to admit that I'm getting older. So I'm like, I don't want to, hear that. But there's certain frequencies that I can't hear, and if I'm watching TV or in a crowded place with all this chit chat, I can't hear, especially when my husband's behind me and talking to me. I'm like, I think he's talking to me, but I'm not sure. And he gets, mad. He's just like he has to repeat. And I'm like, I need to, uh, look at you. But part of me goes, sometimes it's not too bad, not hearing. It's like, I
I
want to
know.
tune things out, and the universe is telling me, here's a way. I don't know.
I know it is kind of a catch-22 because we live in such a noisy world and we know that our stress level is connected to the noises around us, right? So one of the things I love about being hard of hearing is I can shut the world off and control my stress level. So I understand what you mean about that. Um, Most people who wear hearing aids in America are under 60 years old.
Oh, wow.
Let me repeat that. Most people are working age Americans like me that wear hearing aids. We have this misconception, especially in America, that only mature people wear hearing aids. And I think it's just because maybe they're more noticeable, maybe they're more vocal. I don't know what it is. But most people I know that are my age and younger, I think the reason we don't see them and know about them is because they don't want people to know. They don't
Right.
want their employer to know. They don't want the stigma or the bias. And so it's a little bit of this, spinning in a circle where we have people who are wearing hearing aids, but maybe they keep their hair down, or maybe there's guys in the construction field and they just make sure they always have their hat on because they don't want people to see. And so there's a shift in America happening though, where just like it's okay to let your hair not be colored now,
All
right?
right. Yep.
Did that exactly. We're like, maybe I don't have to do that. You're starting to see a shift where people are no longer thinking it's okay to be quiet about our hearing impairment, or maybe we need some help. So I'm really glad to see that people are becoming a little more comfortable talking about it because 10% of all Americans have some type of hearing loss. Is that not extraordinary? I mean, that's like 50 million people out there.
Right. Right.
It's just a lot. And
Right.
so we just have to encourage each other to be a little bit brave and
Yes.
to seek the help we need and to support each other and to not necessarily um, buy into the biases and some of the stigma, when you hear people talking about, oh, I must be getting old because I can't
Right.
hear, that we kind of catch each other and say, well, I'm not so sure age always has something to do with that. Sometimes it does, but not always. And even if it does, it's okay, right?
It's
I mean,
part
we're
of
all
life.
get older, and that's part of life. And so you want a good quality of life. And if you can't hear around you, they've proven that it's linked to dementia now. There's all
Yep.
kinds of studies out. So it's not just a social cultural thing. We're now realizing that it's a real serious health risk if you don't get your hearing checked and then just let that part of the brain just sort of die because it's not getting that signal in from the ears. And so it's a complicated subject, but I think if we can rally around each other and
Yep.
help each other, it's just like the mental health conversations that were so passe and, oh, we don't want to talk about mental health 20 years ago, and now it's a little more acceptable. Let's
Exactly.
make hearing impairment and hard of hearing issues the next thing that we get really comfortable talking about.
Yeah, I agree. And also for people to be kinder in general for many reasons, but also, there could be a misinterpretation that somebody's not listening to you if you don't know, like in the grocery line or something like that, and seems like they're ignoring you. they may have a hearing impediment. You
Yes.
just don't know.
I've had many people think I was such a snob or, the B word because I didn't acknowledge them talking to me. So yeah, it is an issue. So I think being kind and just extending that grace if somebody doesn't necessarily respond to you, because you're right. Maybe they just didn't hear you.
Right? Let's find out a little more information before you jump to conclusions.